You're listening to the sweet sounds of the After Movie Diner. Support us at patreon.com/After Movie Diner. Or I'll punch you in the teats. Rate and review us on iTunes, Earthling. And now, here's your host, John Cross.
Hello, and actually, this show starts with Jim talking.
So I hear you've got James Spader on the show. Certainly got a ton of questions for him.
Yeah, well,
Did you phrase it really bad? Did you change the phrasing? Because I didn't think the phrasing was that obscure.
No, especially considering it was precursored by many posts about please give us questions for Sleazy Spader.
It's because they all want to believe, man. They strongly want to believe and dream that one day you will talk to... You're never going to talk to Spader, and if you did, you'd be terrified of him listening to these podcasts. And I don't know, coming over and dripping in your ear.
Yeah. All right. We're going to start because we've got a lot. We've got a lot to get through.
Yeah, we do. Do we?
Yeah, we do. Not so much about the film, but we have lots of feedback and questions, which is always fun.
Yeah, but do we have feedback and questions?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Like tons.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Anyway, all right. So we'll start it off. Plus, I have a whole conspiracy theory. Ooh.
Okay.
It's going to be exciting. Right. This episode's going to be exciting. I've done research.
Jesus. All right. Let me put on my dark glasses. So if I do nod off, you won't actually be able to tell.
Yeah, if you nod off. Is that what's going to happen? All right.
It depends on how long your conspiracy theories last for.
Hello and welcome to the After Movie Not Allowed in a Diner Anymore. And with me, as always, is Jimothy Wally, king of all the bum faces. Hello, Jim. How you doing?
I'm all right. Then you must be emperor of the bum faces, because you are the one with the face like a bum.
I'm Johnny Crossett.
What you've done is
Johnny Crossett, emperor of the bum faces.
Because I'm friends with you. Yeah. You've made me king of the bum faces, but it's like an honorary title. You know what I mean? It doesn't have anything to do with my face. It's because the only thing that you could bestow on me as emperor of the bum faces, is the title king of the bum faces.
Well, I think if I'm emperor, you should probably be knave of the bum faces.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, because then I would be like waving a little stick with bells on it next to you.
No, that's a jester.
Isn't that a knave as well? A knave and a jester? Isn't it the same thing?
Maybe, potentially. Anyway, enough with all this gay banter.
That's what people tuned in for, right? Semantic argument about the difference between knaves and jesters. That's what Sleazy Spader Springtime's all about.
Right, and I would imagine that Spader has a chart somewhere in his house cataloguing the exact difference between a knave and a jester, but coming at it from a much different angle.
Yeah, he'd have there'd be a very specific circumstance and tone to his voice. It's like things he calls people just after they've done something that he considers sexy.
Yes.
So he would say you knave.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Or you jester. Do you know what I mean? It would follow a very different, sexually charged thing that Spader has been drawn towards.
He would have done extensive research about what duties a knave had in olden times, and if it included any scrubbing or moistening duties, he will have had intricate histories written about what knaves had to either scrub and or moisten with a medieval sponge type implement.
Yeah, and also I think if you ever do anything like accidentally sexy, then you turn around and Spader's there, and he goes, and he'll have and that's when he'll call you a thing. You knave. You can do something accidentally sexy. You turn around and go, you jester.
You knave.
You knave.
The thing is, Jim, is I've never done anything.
No, that's why we've never seen him.
Accidentally sexy.
If you wanted him on the show to answer the hundreds of questions, all you had to do was something accidentally sexy. But unfortunately, you're simply not capable, mate.
No, I'm not.
Neither of us not.
Period. Not sexy. Secondly,
we are not sexy people.
Secondly, I don't even know if I could. I don't even know what mechanism is involved in me being accidentally sexy.
Yeah, well, I think it's being sexy. That's you start there,
yeah,
and then starting with being sexy, then you do things that are accidentally sexy because you're already sexy. Do you know what I mean?
But what? No, that doesn't work.
Yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Because if you're already
being
sexy,
and doing
then
are separate states.
You are
being and doing are separate states. You are sexy. You are being sexy, right? But doing, like an action, something accidental, which is in itself sexy. No, it's mundane, like fixing a plug. Do you know what I mean? Buying a microwave. Could be anything. Could be like opening a door in a microwave. And because you are sexy, the way you open the door is accidentally sexy. Turn around, there's Spader. Well, it might not be that mundane. It would have to be something like specific, I guess. You'd have to. It probably would, like you say, involve moistening, or scrubbing. You might be like scrubbing a floor.
Like, what if you were a sexy eco worker removing the oil from a bird after a natural disaster?
Oh man, he would be there. You generally go, you just.
But you were accidentally being sexy.
That's what I'm saying. You rubbing the oil. You could rub the oil off all the birds in the world, mate. Wouldn't matter. But somebody sexy does it, right? Rubbing the bird, accidentally being sexy.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad we cleared that up.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Sleazy Spader Springtime. Welcome to the show. Oh, it's a Sleazy Spader Springtime. I want you all to know that if you please, there's James Spader Sleaze and it's got nowhere else to go. So loosen all your blouses, give your nose a damn good blow. 'Cause now we're coming clean, oh yeah. It's 2020 and we're in quarantine. This Sleazy Spader Springtime show. Oh yeah. It is 2020's quarantine edition of the Sleazy Spader Springtime show. So we're on the second episode of a Sleazy Spader Springtime 5. This time it's Sleazonal. And we
still sounds like seasonal. That's my only problem with that one. I mean, I like it, but it still sounds like seasonal.
Well, it is. It's both seasonal and personal.
This time it's Sleazonal.
This time
it should have been Sleazonal.
Okay. Anyway, last episode 312, which was number 1 of Sleazy Spader Springtime 5, for people who are keeping count, and I know a lot of you out there.
Are you thinking Roman numerals? Is it Roman numerals for the...
No.
Okay.
No.
I feel like it should be.
No.
I feel like Spades would like Roman numerals.
Yeah, I know, but I've gone for the common take. I
feel like Spade has never been in a movie that has Roman numerals in it, and secretly he always wanted to be.
Yeah, well, he's still not getting Roman numerals because it's just a 5.
You're not even going to give it to him, fair enough.
No, I'm not going to give it to him because I want to appeal to a broad audience. I don't want people to be like,
well, good luck with that, mate. Good luck with that.
Sleazy Spader Springtime fee? What does that mean? Anyway, the first episode of this season, or Sleason, was a roaring success, Jim. Just a roaring... Oh, it was a roaring success. It really was. Here comes the postman. I wonder what he has for me. Is there something in his big brown sack? I wonder what could it be? Well, I hope the bills it lacks and instead brings me some list of feedback, or maybe, just maybe, a big bag of crack. Oh, here comes the postman. I wonder what he has for me. Andy Lunn, as we all know, who is a huge fan of these episodes, he wrote us a whole comment on the website. On the website.
People don't ever write comments on the website. What's the point?
Yeah. Utilizing the comment function that is inherently built into the website. He utilized it, and I'm going to read us now the comment.
As you should, mate. This is a monumental occasion.
You put on the website. I believe we've got some comments on the website in the past, but I've not read them out. Anyway, here we go. This is from Andy Lunn. Well, you asked for an email via your website, and so here I am with some feedback on your latest Sleazy Spader Springtime. Obviously, you know full well by now that I'm a certifiable Spaderophile, so you're guaranteed only positive musings on the subject of the purse-lipped, espresso-sipping, 90s syrup-wearing legend of Sleaze. What an entertaining episode it was, too. I was listening in my garden, and my neighbors probably thought that I was insane, as I laughed incredibly loudly at various points throughout, most definitely a lot more than you two did during the actual movie. It's many years since I watched 2 Days in the Valley. I don't recall a rewatch in our own Spader season back in 2014. Yes, him and his wife did his own Sleazy Spader season back in 2014. But...
Back when the world was young.
Back when the world was young, yeah. But, he goes on to say, I did also have a poster for this unashamedly shit film back upon release, purely because it fed into the Tarantino-loving cool student that I was, attempting and failing miserably to be. He said,
yeah, that sounds like me. That was me. That was my, yes, that's what I did. That's exactly why I had it.
Right. Simpatico with the Lun. We're making connections. We're weaving webs. It's all very exciting. He finishes up by saying, I love the comparison to McDowell. He also has the amazing ability to be compelling yet hilarious and therefore elevate pretty shit movies. I don't think they've ever worked together, but that would be an absolute treat. Anyhow, I must away now to try and think of some more questions for the next episode. The most difficult thing there being that I can't remember what I've asked previously. All the best. Keep it human, Andy Lunn. And you'll be glad that the Lunster has pulled from his bag of tricks far more questions, or lots more questions rather, that we will be doing at the end of the episode, because we do insist that people listen to the whole gosh darn thing before we give them the pleasure of hearing us read out their questions. We have one more bit of feedback from last week's episode, because I tell you, sir, it was a resounding success.
2 bits of feedback is maybe the most feedback we've ever gotten ever.
The most feedback. I feel positively full of feedback.
We're feedbacked up.
This is from one of our regular listeners and commenters on the Facebook page, who has a name which is splendidly Spader-esque. Get this, Chris Leatherman.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Spader would love a little bit of Leatherman. I'm sure he would. He'd be like, "Oh, you."
He should really change his first name to Chris. That would be much better. Crisp Leatherman.
Crisp Leatherman. Oh, you knave.
Yeah, oh, you jester.
So Chris Leatherman said, this was a cracking episode. Hilarious rants about the script of this shoddy movie, which I've argued with co-workers about in years past. Wow, the days at that office must fly by.
No, that sounds pretty good to me. That's exactly the kind of office I'd like to work in, having arguments about is 2 Days in the Valley good or not.
Yeah, no,
and
true.
Then, well, you know, it's time to go home. That sounds brilliant.
Whereas I sit down in my office and I go, so I just did a podcast about 2 Days in the Valley, and either everyone leaves or there's like a chirruping of crickets or tiny birds.
Arseholes doing that.
What, arseholes puckering up because they think I
might...
might...
arseholes. You make arseholes pucker so much they chirrup.
Because I say, I did an episode about 2 Days in the Valley, and people are like, oh, God, is he going to talk about it? And then they clench. Yeah. But he goes on to say, the plot is nonsensical. I also got mad about it last time I watched it, but not nearly as mad as Jim Wallace does during the podcast. He said...
I'm glad I'm not alone. I'm glad I'm not alone.
You're definitely not alone. Well, you are, but you're not. In your own way.
Only cosmically.
He also says, also the director's love of buttocks and the fact that the particular buttocks belong to Theron and Hatcher is the only reason the movie still gets watched in 2020, except Mr. Crisp Leatherman, which we have redubbed you now. That is what you're going to be called forever now. Except we didn't watch it for our love of buttocks, although we are fans of the posterior. We watched it because of Sleazy Spader Springtime. So it's not the only reason, but I'm sure it is one of the many reasons, or one of the two reasons.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of had to, because the film we wanted to watch, which was the film we're talking about tonight, wasn't available. So we watched 2 Days in the Valley.
But luckily, moving on to film we're talking
fucking
about.
Seamless, mate. See, I'm responsible for that transition, and it was fucking seamless.
It was a transvision vamp
Oh, I like that.
I don't
That's
know.
good.
Transition.
No, don't question it. Just move on. It was
Just
good.
move on.
Just move on. It's good. Enjoy it.
Yes, I'm enjoying it. Luckily, I put the tendrils out and to Spader dealers, and they came back in winning style with a digital version of tonight's film, or today's film, or this episode's film, because we don't know when you're listening to this, although we like to imagine you're in some sort of clawfoot bathtub with soap all the way up, and you're sat there with candles lit, listening to our delicate voices talk Spader. If you're not doing that, possibly with some like Enya playing in the background and some dry ice wafting through. And
so we're over the top of Enya. Enya's playing and us. I can't think of a worse crash of cultures. The two things don't belong together. It's our like nonsense bollocks and Enya's nonsense bollocks. They're just two different kinds of nonsense bollocks.
I'm imagining like a chiffon curtain blowing in the wind, some dry ice wafting in from outside. Maybe Frank.
That's because your idea of sexiness is stuck in Cadbury's Flake advert from 1985.
It's true, though. It is true.
Move on, mate. What is the point of Sleazy Spader Springtime if you can't embrace styles of sexiness past when you were 7?
Well, because this very film, which is called Mrs. The Stickup, which is just screaming for some Spader innuendo, gurning and winking at the camera. Mrs. The Stickup.
Again, if there was a film where James Spader like gurned and winked at the camera all the way through while making weak double entendre puns, I would be all over that. I would love that. I think
you
would
be
great.
all over it.
What you're saying is you'd remake Up Pompeii only with James Spader instead of Frankie Howard.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, or
I
any.
would love that. It would be like Up Pompeii only menacing. It would be great.
Up Pompeii, but weirdly, for no apparent reason, set in Canada, doubling for California, for reasons known only to the scriptwriter. But yes...
I think that'd be more the producer, wouldn't it, mate? The scriptwriter wouldn't go, the film is set in Canada, only you've got to pretend it's Los Angeles.
No, I'm saying that the scriptwriter didn't bother to change it. We'll get into it. Anyway, in this movie, Toot Stick Up, there is a momentary scene in which Spader is in a ludicrous clawfoot tub. That's where the improv started. It wafted into a Flake advert / Frank Langella as Dracula, but in 70s Dracula. But it started based on both a scene in this film, but also the sort of bathtub I imagine Spader probably has in his home.
Yeah, I mean, I don't happen to think. I think he's got a Roman bath in his home. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's the size of someone else's house, a normal house.
Right.
And there's lots of like rooms and corridors, and everything's marble.
Yeah.
Right. And every time he goes for a bath, he meets somebody different.
Oh.
It's always an adventure going for a bath in Spader's house.
Well, maybe one day we'll be invited.
It might not always come out clean.
To find out.
Come out, with a broader mind.
But The Stick Up was made in 2002 by Rowdy Herrington. And this isn't the first time that old Rowds has directed the Spades. And in fact, he has directed the Spades on three separate occasions. And this is the third film that we are covering. We previously covered both Jack's Back, which was a Herrington joint from back in the 80s.
That was one of the better Spader ones, Jack's Back.
And we covered Eyewitness, which they
which
made.
is also another one of the better. Oh, well, that's interesting, because those are I'd say, of all the Spader films we've watched, those are the three Spader films I'd say that we've watched. The two, I guess, and this one, because I actually enjoyed this one, that I didn't hate, that weren't boring or stupid. Because most of them are boring and or stupid.
I disagree, but that's fine. I know where you're coming from. But you're right. Jack's Back was certainly still in the top 5 of Sleazy Spader Springtime movies. It's still And one day,
Eyewitness is very close because even though he's only a bit part, he's easily my favourite sleazy character in that. His like sex hotel room and the things he's doing at that hotel room and what he's even doing in the country. There's a whole like weird sleazy mystery going on with his character that's never explained, and I really enjoyed that.
So what I need to ask you at this point, seeing as we brought up Rowdy Herrington and their history, apparently Herrington is considered a close friend of old Jimmy Spade's, according to research I've done. Do you want to hear my conspiracy theory right now, or do you want to talk about? Okay, all right. So here's my conspiracy theory, right? And it actually lines up. It lines up. Spader marries his first wife in 1987, having met her, by the way, in a yoga studio, which is just phenomenal. But we'll get into that later on.
That's brilliant.
He marries her in 1987. A year later, with old Rowds, he makes Jack's Back, or at least Jack's Back is released, around the time he meets his first wife. Right?
Yeah, because they probably filmed it the year before, so that tracks.
Right. I think Rowdy Herrington, and this is my theory, what it is, doesn't get on with Spader's wife, and I'll explain why.
Okay.
They don't make another movie and together, Rowdy and Spades, till 2002, which is this movie, The Stickup, right? They've known each other the whole time, but they haven't. Spades has been married to his wife the whole time, right? Since Jack's Back until this movie, The Stickup, right? On which he meets the actress Leslie Stephenson, right? That Rowdy casts in this movie.
Okay.
It breaks up Spader's marriage, presumably, because they filed for divorce about a year and a half later, but it is known that he met Leslie, who is now his wife, still his wife, on this movie. So one assumes something happened, the marriage broke up, he filed for divorce, and then they got divorced finally in 2004. But he definitely, something was going on the set of The Stickup. Prior to The Stickup, right, old Leslie Stephenson, has been in a movie called TV movie called Jackie, Ethel, and Joan, The Women of Camelot, all about the Kennedys, right? Spader, I mean, this is just phenomenal work here by both Rowdy and myself, I have to say. Spader was close friends with John Kennedy Jr., both having attended Phillips Academy High School together. Spader even died occasionally with John Jr. at his mother, Jacqueline Kennedy's Upper East Side apartment in New York. In fact, he told a story about it on Jimmy Fallon one night. So, Spader, from a young age, big fan of the Kennedys, friends with the Kennedys, there's definitely something there, right? Rowdy, next step, 87, 88, Rowdy meets his wife, not sure about her, right? Bides his time, finds an actress who has played a Kennedy woman in a TV movie, Leslie Stephenson.
No, which Kennedy did she play?
She played Joan.
Okay.
Right? It's not as neat as if she played Jackie, but let's just go with it.
Well, she doesn't look anything like Jackie. I mean, it falls down a bit there. If he's so obsessed with Jackie O,
no. I'm just saying, Harrington's thinking, I've got to find someone who has some. I'm talking about like deep-rooted reason for Spader.
You're saying, just to be clear,
hang on a second.
You're saying that Spader's marriage, that has lasted 18 years at this point, is based on the fact that when they met, she went, "Oh, did you know I played Joan Kennedy in a movie like 5 years ago?" He went, "Really?
No. I'm saying that Rowdy Herrington cast her because of the Kennedy connection.
You're saying he tickled Spader's Kennedy fancy.
Yes. And then he was proved right because Stephenson and Spader, get together, right? Harrington also makes sure that there are like lots of scenes where Spader is shirtless or they're having sex or both in the film, right? And so all I'm saying is this. Harrington and him don't make a movie until 2002, having made their first movie in 1988. Jackie, Ethel, Joan, and the Women of Camelot comes out in 2001. So he doesn't even get Spader on the blower to be in a movie till after the Kennedy movie comes out. I'm just saying, there's something there, and I think Harrington deep down knows that he ruined Spader's first marriage because of probably some dislike based on, I don't know, cheese opinions or something. I mean, something, they were round a table talking about, red grapes versus green grapes or something, and Harrington got quite upset about whatever her opinion was and just wrote her off. Did nothing with Spader until he found an actress who had played a Kennedy, put her in a movie called The Stickup, Ooh Misses, lots of suggestion, topless scenes, sex scenes, on the run, excitement, up in Canada, far away, ooh, they're in a trailer, what's going to happen? And sure enough, Harrington gets his way. That's all I'm saying. I'm just putting it out there. It ties up, the dates match up. I'm kind of proud of that, and that's my theory.
Fair enough. I don't really have any strong opinions on what is obviously a load of old bollocks, but I see how you got there. Yeah. I enjoyed the journey.
Thank you. But it's interesting because going back to previous Sleazy Spader Springtimes, we have covered, as I said, this is now our third Harrington Spader joint. Are
there any other Harrington Spader joints, or is that it?
Just these three.
Okay.
And
the trilogy.
The trilogy of Harrington Spader nonsense. And
they're 2 words, right? Right, Jack's back, the Stickup. Eyewitness.
I mean, yeah, all right. Okay, we'll go.
I just mean, like, in terms of a trilogy, is it, you know what I mean? Like, what are the, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think. My brain's complete mush.
It's fine. But yeah. Stephenson went on to be an Alien Hunter, another film which we've also covered on a Sleazy Spader Springtime.
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen that one.
It's not bad. It's not bad. Yeah. It's very Sci-Fi Channel movie, but it's decent. It's watchable. And it's another one where inexplicably, not inexplicably because it's James Spader, but like they've written into the script, or Spader has it in his contract, where even though it's sort of a Thing, Leviathan style alien, they find an alien, there's a small crew in an outpost somewhere, yada, yada, yada. Very similar to that kind of vibe. Even though it's a movie about an alien that they find and they're all scientists and really it should be about that, Spader manages to have it away with at least 2 of the women in the outpost, and has in the past had it away with the 3rd woman, who keeps referencing the fact that they've had it away in the past. So yeah, it's completely bizarre.
I think honestly, I do think it's a sound narrative choice to drop a sex-hungry sleaze monster in the middle of sort of quite generic plots. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Take any plot,
yes,
and replace the hero with a sleazemonger.
Yeah,
it's just a brilliant idea for a movie.
But this movie, The Stick-Up, does come. It goes against what I was saying last week. Which is that the 90s were kind of prime Spades right up until Secretary, which is sort of early 2000s. And then after that, he is sort of, outside of his TV work, which garners him lots of praise and lots of accolades and medals and baubles and...
Medals?
He gets Emmys and shit.
Who gave him medals?
He gets Emmys and shit, which is the acting version. In terms of movies, he is stuck in... Sci-Fi Channel, Lifetime Channel style budgeted TV, budgeted style movies. He does The Stick-Up, The Pentagon Papers, Eyewitness, Alien Hunter, and Shadow of Fear. are the movies that he does in the early to mid 2000s. And while there is certainly some fun to be had there, they are all in terms of production values, pretty average and mediocre. But he seems to be perfectly happy with that. He seems to be, and like you say, you are dropping a sleaze-hungry monster into the middle of a bunch of sort of...
I can't think of a single film with a generic plot.
Generic B-movies.
We wouldn't be improved by replacing... Not like a character, not like having a B character who's sleazy, because there's plenty of those. I mean, you've got to get from one end of a sinking boat to another, but the leader is a sleaze-hungry sex monster.
Towel fetishist.
It's a great idea.
Towel fetishist.
Yeah, it's just a brilliant idea.
So that brings us to the Stickup. As I said, he meets his wife on the thing. It is it's sort of too late to be post Tarantino, but it definitely kind of falls into those kind of rental heist dramas that were being made around the time, normally in the mid to late 90s, but sort of, I guess, eke their way into the 2000s. Because it's sort of, as I said, it's got made-for-TV production values. It's shot in Canada, but it's meant to be in California, and there's absolutely no way. Like, I was watching the whole thing going, there's no need for him to be an LA cop. He could have been a Seattle cop or even a Chicago cop or anything that's remotely...
It's a bit too damp and woody to be LA, isn't it?
Well, or anywhere, really, in California, unless you're going to go up near Oregon, and even then it would be more redwoody than it would be mountainy. So as someone who's traveled through California, I call horse shit on this film in terms of its location. And like I say, a single dialogue change from I can't believe he's a LA cop to I can't believe he's a Seattle cop. It's not like if they said Seattle, people overseas would be like, Seattle? Where is this magical place? I've never heard of this place. Seattle? I can't believe it. Can we make it Los Angeles? Because that's the only place anyone's ever heard of. None of it makes any sense. But it is seemingly a crooked cop bank heist movie with a twist. Is that fair to say?
I mean, personally, I'd actually say one of the reasons I enjoyed it is it wasn't as generic as that. It felt to me more like
the twist.
No. I don't mean that. I mean, even from the very beginning, before the twist turns up, it feels like more of an old-fashioned film noir to me. It feels like they made a modern film noir. I'm not saying it's like that good, but that's the plot. Like him getting involved with a nurse, like that whole dangerous romance thing. The way that it's told in flashback without really a lot of explanations about some of those flashbacks, and it just been like the general kind of mood. The fact that
you're right. If it was in black and white and had some kind of cool voiceover,
but do you know what I mean?
It would be.
He's a bad guy. He's taken in by. I mean, she's not. I know she's a nurse, but she could be a waitress. It's got that kind of a feel to it.
Oh, by the way,
the way they talk as well, like their whole deal. It feels like what they're trying to ape is less Tarantino and more. Postman always rings twice or knocks twice. I forget which one now.
No, I get that. I just mean when I.
No, you're right. That's why they got the money and they got the movie made.
That's what I meant. Thank you.
They're fitting into that kind of suite or whatever of movies. But that's why I liked it, because it reminded me of those kind of movies, and that's why I didn't mind how long it took to get going, because I felt like. It was actually pretty atmospheric, and other than that bit at the beginning with the FBI agent and the woman, which I get why it was there, but that was so badly acted by literally everybody involved that it almost put me off the whole movie.
And it so desperately looked like Canada. I was just like,
yeah. That was that, but just she was like, it was like an audition piece. It was so bad.
It was so distracting because. Yeah, we'll get into that, but like you're right. And I almost wish that they'd had like the conviction to shoot it in black and white, because I really think when you have this like cheap-looking TV style video film or whatever,
that would have been a cool idea. I think for sure.
Video film or whatever, the fact that everything looks very flat and there's not a lot of attempt to do kind of dramatic lighting or shadows or anything particularly interesting with the cinematography, you could save a lot of that by making it kind of gritty and black and white.
Yeah, the script is pretty good. Like the characters are pretty well drawn. I like the fact up until the only thing that slightly spoiled it for me a bit, and I enjoyed the movie. Like the twist made sense and it was all fine, but without wishing to give it away. But what I liked at the beginning was that up until the thing happened, that he was like a bad cop, but like a good lover or romantic partner or whatever, right? And the ex-husband was like a good cop, but a bad husband. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, no, I know. No, I get it.
Like, there was a thing there where I quite liked that thing going on, and I even liked how the FBI agent and the cop, like, I really liked. I mean, again, it was slightly spoiled by, the twisty thing, but initially I really liked how, even though the FBI agent is, and it's true for all the characters actually, not just the cop, but how the FBI character, even though he was young and inexperienced, like people liked him and they responded to him, and like the Native Americans who owned the casino were like, no, we're better off getting someone who isn't corrupt, and everybody just kind of liked him. You know what I mean? And then there were no jokes about how inexperienced he was, and he wasn't really angry and
what I liked,
anxious to prove. He was just like quite a likable character in the middle of all of it, and that was quite a nice change. I thought it was a bit of a change against type. Normally you expect like an inexperienced FBI agent to be hated by the locals, really arrogant, needs to be taught a lesson, all that bollocks. There was none of that. It was great.
No. So a few points. First of all, Harrington, bit of a fan of the promiscuous nurse with a heart of gold character, because exactly the same character is in Roadhouse, which is probably his most famous film.
Oh, okay.
The nurse who immediately sees Dalton, played by Patrick Swayze, goes home with him, bonks him, and then later like has to stitch him up in a hospital room, much in the way that this film has that. So there's a lot of Harrington themes playing through this. Secondly, I agree with you totally. What the two things that I, apart from the major twist, which also flips the genre on its head nicely and reinvigorates the movie for its second half, definitely.
Yeah, I'd go along with that.
The thing that I liked, there were two things I liked about it, and I agree with you. First of all, there was no conflict with the FBI agent, and the FBI agent was actually a detective. You know what I mean? He wasn't just like some fucking, I'm a bureaucrat, blah, 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 go by the rules or, get knotted. Or I'm taking over your crime scene, but I have clearly no ability to do my job. He wasn't one of those guys. He actually had detective skills and actually had detective points of detective work, and even like did the hokey old Sherlock Holmes quote, which I really don't mind either. But the second thing is then the way it plays out is because the FBI's guy is being an actual detective, is there isn't this idea of the second half of the movie having to be Spader like prove his innocence or prove his guilt or prove his whatever. I don't want to give it away, but like whatever. Watch the movie before you.
Because actually there's a point when that all starts happening. I think I paused it to like get a cup of tea or something, and I was pleasantly surprised to find out that at that point there was only like 20 or 25 minutes left of the movie. Like it was probably like, it's really barreling along towards the end now. There's not like this is an excuse to have another hour of the movie.
If anything,
then they were off.
Yeah, I mean, what I really liked about it didn't become like a fugitive thing where he was having to like prove his innocence. Basically, the FBI and the police believed his innocence, and we went from there. And that does spoil the movie a little bit, but not completely. I'm not giving away all the twists. But then the third act, though, it was a little leap for me to get to the point where all of his friends from LA would be doing what they're doing. It was a little leap for me to be like, wait, why are they all suddenly like gunning for him? That, like, I got it, but at the same time, like, it felt a bit of a leap. Considering
I know what you mean, but I think that
considering they'd all been friends together, you know what I mean? They'd all.
But I think what I liked about it was that the idea of him, for one point in the movie, a brief moment in the movie, he's got the cops after him, the FBI after him, and like the bad cops after him. Like he's got literally everybody after him. And the idea of him being right with one doesn't excuse what he's done with the other. So there's like, he has to go through. Actually, the only thing I didn't like about the whole movie was that he got to live happily ever after. I don't really feel like he earned that. Like it felt like he did some pretty bad shit. And just because he went, right, but they did some bad shit too, and I'll tell you first before they get a chance to, doesn't really mean like the coming to America like beach scene really felt earned to me. Like I felt like I'd have preferred it if it was like her waiting outside a prison gate or something and him coming out. Like it wouldn't have to be anything more than that. But like some idea of you did do some bad shit, right? Let's not gloss over the fact that you did like murder and steal, right? Which again is not a fucking
No. He reluctantly had to shoot someone who was shooting at them. He didn't like.
Yeah, but he was shooting at them because they were robbing. Like they were. He ultimately murdered those people because he didn't go in there and for the interest of doing anything except taking money. So he murdered. The fact that the people he murdered were criminals doesn't make murder. We're saying that murder is okay if you're a drug dealer, which it's like not. You know what I mean?
No, I don't.
You can't walk into suspected drug dealers' houses, and then without a trial, like gun them down, and they've got a right to protect themselves.
But that's not quite what happened. But okay, I wouldn't go as far as to call him a murderer, but I would say, yes, he's stealing. Their theory is that they're stealing from the bad guys to give to the good guys. It's just the good guys happen to be them. And that makes them bad.
And I get it, and I understand how in the act of finally being a good cop, he like earns. Like I get what the movie's trying to do. I'm just saying the only thing in the movie. I see where you're coming from, by the way. Like how that part of the bad cops come after him doesn't ring true. I'm just saying the only part of it that didn't ring true for me was like the happy ending. I didn't really feel like he'd earned it. I felt like he had to do more to make up for his past.
No, but I feel like the endings were tacked on much in the way that scene with the woman and the FBI guy was tacked on. Like there was some like really goofy.
Yeah, there was a pleasing amount with the FBI thing. There was like some pleasingly goofy things. Yeah, there's some nice lines and some goofy things, and I liked that it was all being like followed. Like by the guys around the casino, not like completely believing that like it would get taken care of. There was like nice touches like that all the way through.
Well, but it's funny. After watching the movie last night, this morning while I was doing the laundry, I was listening to an episode of the podcast, The Movies That Made Me, with Joe Dante, and he had Roger and Julie Corman on, and they got talking to Roger Corman about sort of the days of slightly post-prohibition gangster movies and then detective movies, and the idea that in the gangster movies the gangsters weren't all bad, and in the detective movies the detectives weren't all good, and very often the same actors who were playing gangsters in 1930 whatever ended up playing detectives in 1940 whatever, as the kind of mood changed.
Yeah, makes sense.
But the fact that, the thrill of film noir is the ambiguous characters, or not even the ambiguous characters, just the fact that the characters are very often drawn from both light and dark. They're drawn from good and bad. They are not in any way clean cut. Our hero has to win every single time, and our hero has to make the right choices.
Yeah, you can root for Spades even when he's on the run from the law and might be just straight up and down bad. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that would be fine too.
And I think that's where okay, so it's interesting. the role is kind of perfectly tailored to Spader, in the sense that, Spader is a good person who pervades this very like dark, malevolent energy, right? Normally emanating from his loins. So casting him as a cop who's been occasionally on the wrong side of the law, who sleazes his way into a woodland mountain town and sleazes all over the local nurse, while also being this sort of ambiguous character, is kind of perfect. The odd thing I have to say is that in films where there's no need for there to be sleaze, Spader imbues his characters with mountains of wobbly sleaze. In a movie like this, where I could have done with a little bit of Spader's,
yeah, there wasn't enough sleaze, and I get that he was playing it straight, and that's why it didn't quite. Like there were beats in the movie where he needed to be like a straight, square-jawed hero who's been corrupted by whatever. But the only sleazy. I mean, obviously, like there were some sleazy things, but the bit in the when he's being like interrogated after the death of his partner, and he's in that room, and they're all asking the questions like. They're obviously pretty awkward. And right at the end, he like leans, like completely out of nowhere, he leans over to like the guy sitting next to him, who at that point, as far as I'm aware, is just like another cop investigating. He's not like
no. He's one of the gang. The guy he leans over.
I know that, yeah, but I didn't realize when I was watching it.
At that point in the film, right.
At that point in the film, so he's like another cop, like also investigating Spades, and he leans over, like whispers something in his ear, right? And the guy like laughs, and then Spader walks out, and I can't help feeling that whatever he whispered in his ear was like the very depths of depravity. Do you know what I mean? He said something unbelievably depraved in that moment, and that was. Otherwise, I'd been like a bit nonplussed, but because it was Spader, it was instantly really sleazy. So there was that. But I agree with you.
I just mean that with a part that would allow quite.
Yeah, certainly at the beginning, he could sleaze it up, because then. In his, redemptive journey of like finding out what really happened and blah, 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 he, could get less sleazy as it goes on. I think the trouble is that the times that we see Spader for like the first half of the movie, we're supposed to think he's a bad one, right? Up until, the thing, and then he's a good one. But actually, we have to believe he's a bad one up to that point. If he was being sleazy, that would be fine. He's being sleazy, he's a bad one, no problem. But he can't be sleazy and be on the redemptive journey that we realise that he's on only later. Do you know what I mean? I was like, well, he's not. No redemption for like Mr. Sleaze. Do you know what I mean? Like, if he was being all like sleazy,
okay, that's the name of your next album. No redemption for Mr. Sleaze.
You know what I mean? But when he's like, if he was like being, I mean, he's like jabbed in the bum by a needle, by a hot nurse, and like, if there's a chance to be like, just to give a sleazy look there, that would have been great. But he can't, because at that point, he's all like, it's from the moment that the power goes, right? That's the beginning of his redemptive journey, right? He like flees what we now realise, like at the end of the movie, that's the beginning of his redemptive journey. So he can't be a sleaze monster after that. He could be a sleaze monster in the drug den if he'd been like, oh, you knave, like finding some like, drugs or money. He could be sleazy there, but from the very moment the power goes out, even though we think he's being a bad one, he can't actually be one. So that's why the sleaze doesn't belong, and he has to play it straight, which is, like, as you say, that's a bit of a shame. Because I feel like if that wasn't what was happening, he might have given it the old sleaze hoe.
A couple of things there. I almost want to say that Spader is therefore a little miscast, because while on the page the role screams Spader, like we say, bit of a bad un, but also a bit of a good un. We know he can do that. Comes into town, starts immediately boinking the nurse, and the nurse has got to like immediately roll with him as someone. We've got to believe that the nurse would be, her ardor would be inflamed enough that she would do all of the things that she does before we find out that actually he's a good one. That seems to have Spade written all over it. But because he's decided to play it straight, and because of what happens the second half of the movie, he's the less interesting casting choice for this. And it also goes back to when you look at someone like a Mitchum or a Bogart or... and I'm going to forget the guy who's in Sunset Boulevard.
William Holden?
William Holden. When you look at those guys, the fact that they were playing these characters in the film noirs that, were ambiguous and had to be lovers, but also had to be fighters, but also had to play it straight enough that you believed it and blah, 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 blah. But they're also as enigmatic and as, interesting to watch as anyone has ever been on the silver screen. It shows, how kind of unique those people were and how difficult it is. If someone like Spader, who we know can deliver the business, has a hard time.
That's true. I guess what you're saying, which is true, is that ultimately Mitchum and Bogart are unknowable figures, right? They play their cards close to their chest. You don't know if they're good or they're bad. The women they're with don't know if they're going to treat them well or treat them like garbage. Like you don't quite know where you stand, and so every time they do the right thing, it's an interesting development, And every time they do the wrong thing, it's like, can they be redeemed? And that's because they're unknowable. Whereas Spades is like, you're just, a sex monster wandering around in a human suit. Like we see you, Spader. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing. The only thing unknowable about you is the depths of your depravity.
Well, there's
those
nothing,
can never be plumbed.
There's almost nothing interesting. It's so. It's so
What's
odd.
interesting is that he normally about Spader is he plays a straight character with this whole obviously deep, dark, interesting, twisted persona behind what is supposed to be like, yes, I'm here to investigate the aliens or whatever, but also if there's bonking to be done, you know what I mean, I'll happily dig in. But if it's like I am unknowable, it's like, no, you're not. You want to have sex with everything. That's not mysterious. You're the opposite of it. The only thing mysterious about you is when are you going to start bonking people, right, and how are you going to do it, and who will you be bonking? But who you are is not in doubt. That's the problem. Yeah.
No, he's better playing. I've no interest in Spader attempting humanity. I've no when he's attempting normalcy, not humanity, because I think there's a lot of
normalcy. You're right, or not even normalcy, but just like a straight, like you say, like an enigmatic hero. He just doesn't do that. Like he's not sleazy in Stargate. He's sort of odd and
he travels halfway across the galaxy through a massive
actually, you know what? I will have to watch
portal
again.
And when he gets there, there's one female alien, and who gets to boink her? He does.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? He's more like odd and peculiar, and he plays that role pretty well as the misfit and the outcast. Like he does that really well in that movie. And yeah, he does some sleazy things, but he's not. That's not the thing he's playing on. He's playing more on the idea of him being a bit odd and a bit of a misfit. Like in Jack's Back is the same thing. He's like a bit odd and a bit of a misfit, and that works. Whereas in My Witness, he's just like full-on sleaze.
He does wear a lot of V-neck sweaters in Jack's Back, if I remember correctly as well.
Right. Well, that's your misfit for you. It's your basic misfit outfit, isn't it?
I mean, overall, a decent film.
I genuinely really liked it. I enjoyed it. It was a fun watch. There was lots in it to like.
You have to watch it.
Although we've ruined it, but
watch it through the prism of film noir, and try, if you can, to get past the TV production values. In fact, I say turn the color down on your monitor and turn. I
don't think that is a terrible idea. I think if you watched it in black and white, I think you would get a lot more out of it. I think that could be a really fun, interesting thing to do.
I think the weird thing is, and Harrington is clearly not like it's not Harrington's vision, right? That people are turning up to like people are not like, oh, this is a Harrington joint, I'm here, because he seems to be down to his cinematographer, because when you look at something like Jack's Back or you look at Roadhouse, these are glossy, well lit, gritty staples of their respective genres and respective decades. But once he has a much smaller budget, he's just like any old DP will do. Let's just get some guy with a video camera.
I do feel like his strength as a director is in the pacing of things. I feel like all
his
three of those
strength
movies
is his storytelling.
Definitely rolled along nicely. And he obviously has an eye for a good script, because
he wrote this one.
He did? Oh, I don't know.
He wrote this one.
Oh, he did. Oh, well then fair play to Rowdy Herringbone.
He wrote Jack's Back. He wrote Striking Distance, his one Bruce Willis movie. He wrote A Murder of Crows.
Is that the one where Bruce Willis is on a boat?
Yes.
Is it any good? Bruce Willis on a boat?
It's all right. He also makes a Cuba Gooding Jr. and Tom Berenger movie called A Murder of Crows, which apparently I have to see.
That's one of those. That is one of those movies that you don't see anymore, but they used to be like garage DVDs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like a garage DVD.
Yeah.
You'd have a little rack of DVDs like only $4.99 for Berenger and Gooding in the same movie. Take my money.
Yeah. You mean gas station. When Jim says garage, he means gas station DVDs that are on a rack. And they do still exist. I remember taking my trips to Pittsburgh on the overnight bus, the coach, the mega bus. And around about 2 a.m., you pull into a gas station in the middle of Pennsylvania. And there are, it's one of these like truck stop places that, as well as being a gas station, has like an array of hunting outfits, some like luminous yellow jackets. In case, I don't know, you turn up at a truck stop, you're like, oh, I've forgotten my reflective jacket. I better go into the shop and buy. It has baseball caps, yellow glasses, and a rack of DVDs, and A Murder of Crows starring Berenger.
Even now.
And the Stickup.
Now, because no one has ever bought it. In the years that it's been on that shelf, it's never been bought.
I remember seeing a gas station in America where they had the B movie Abraxas, Master of the Universe or whatever it's called, that stars Jim Belushi and what's his name, Jesse Ventura. And Jim Belushi in Abraxas, like Lord of the Universe. And it was such like a random VHS that...
What is that? I want to see that. Is that like a kind of a sword and sorcery fantasy thing?
But in space. Yeah.
Wait, there's a sword and sorcery fantasy thing in space, which I'm highly partial to, starring Jim Belushi.
Oh, it doesn't star Jim Belushi. He's in it. And Jesse Ventura is in it. But yeah, it's a well-known...
Jesse Ventura again? Is that I Ain't Got Time to Bleed? Is that him?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Abraxas.
That sounds amazing. What's it called?
Abraxas.
Abraxas.
Yeah.
Okay. I really want to see this movie now.
Abraxas. Yeah, it's around. You can find it. It's probably on Amazon Prime. Let's be fair.
Yeah, I'm sure. Abraxas.
Abraxas, Guardian of the Universe. That's it.
Oh, I've got to see.
It's from 1990. It gets 2.8 stars on IMDb. It's pretty awful. But it has Jesse Ventura, Sven Ole Thorsen, who is from one of the Schwarzenegger movies, and a Jim Belushi cameo. And it's an alien policeman arrives on Earth to apprehend a renegade of his own race who impregnates a woman with a potentially destructive mutant embryo.
Jesse Ventura, Secundus. Oh, I want to see this movie.
Abraxas.
That's Belushi. I don't see Belushi.
Abraxas. I thought it was in space. I must be wrong. It's
no,
not.
He's from space.
He's from space. Okay. Anyway, yes, gas station DVDs. Harrington is the king of gas station DVDs.
As well he should be.
Because Striking Distance, that's like the gas station equivalent of a Bruce Willis movie. You know what I mean? Now, this was before...
No. Striking Distance is...
No, this was before Bruce Willis. Like, Bruce Willis in the last 20 years has made almost exclusively only gas station movies. But but prior to that, when he was like Mr. A-list and only making A-list movies, Striking Distance was his. It would have been in one of those DVD cases that had like the clip opening, like the cardboard cover with the clip opening, rather than like a clasp case rather than a plastic all case. Because let's not spend the money on Striking Distance to have a full case. Let's just give it the cardboard clasp case.
Striking Distance feels more like a Blockbuster second-hand sale bin DVD.
Well, that as well, but I mean, they all that kind of blends into the same kind of thing.
No, because Striking Distance is too famous for a gas station DVD. Gas station DVD's got to be $4.99, and you've got vaguely heard of the people in it, but never the movie itself. Bruce Willis is too big. He's too big for the gas station. He's solidly in the middle of a Blockbuster bargain bin, next to. Christ, I'm trying to think what would be a Blockbuster bargain bin.
But anyway, we didn't even do the plot of the Stick-Up, but we would encourage people to watch it. It's a solid.
Yeah, I definitely like your idea of turning it to black and white. I think it's a really good idea.
It's a solid 6 out of 10.
I might even go as far as to say it's 6.5. But yeah, no, 6 is probably fair because it's
a solid 6 out of 10.
But it's nothing that's surprising to enjoy. It wasn't. There was a lot of times it could have taken an easy way out.
It could have gone one way that would have been very annoying and very predictable, and it didn't, and I enjoyed that. But yeah, you need to just get past the fact that it looks like a TV movie that was made in the 90s. It doesn't even look like a 2000s movie. Like if someone told me this sat on the shelf for 10 years and then got released, I would believe it. But no, it didn't. It was made in the 2000s, but early 2000s, so it still feels like the 90s. Because like I say, the decade, what feels like the decade, starts somewhere around the 4th or 5th year of the decade, but seeps into the first 2 or 3 years of the next decade.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Because if you think about it, 81, 82, 83, even up to 84, that still feels kind of like the end of the 70s easing into the 80s. The 80s that people think of as the 80s is like 87, 88, 89. And then what people think of as the 90s starts somewhere around 94, 95.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but yeah.
Well, you have to agree with it because I'm right. So anyway, that was the Stick-Up. We can, of all the Spader movies, it's weirdly enough, it's not one to watch for Spader, although he's fine in it. He's just not.
Yeah, I'm struggling to think what we would put in the Sleazatorium.
Like there were some sleazy moments because he does have sex with a nurse, but they're not. They're weirdly chaste in a weird way, even though.
No, wait. I thought of something that was unbelievably sleazy. That was like, what? Every time he kisses her, it's like he's trying to eat her face. There's not.
Well, this is because, and I wanted to get into this. This is because they were clearly, like, I was trying to find the point in the movie where they'd had sex the night before in their trailer and had realized that they were going to get together. Like, I was trying to find the point in the movie where him and Leslie, his now wife, so it worked out. It's fine. Like, yes, it's his second wife, and yes, I'm sure it was very painful in the 2000s for his first wife, but it worked out. It's not like this was a fling. But I tried to figure out the point in the movie where him and Leslie probably had done some stuff off camera, such as it is. I couldn't pinpoint it exactly, which was sad to me. But I definitely got the feeling, especially with the face-eating kisses, that
was so weird.
Yeah.
It was like, what? You're not trying to kiss her. You're trying to eat her head.
Yeah. I thought... I did think that there's two things that are odd. One is that apparently the moment she gets home, even if she's bringing a guy home, she strips down to her undies and puts a dressing gown on. Like, even before he hasn't even taken off his coat. Like, he's still sat there with his bloody coat on. And she's wandering around in lingerie and a dressing gown. Which, I'm not complaining. It's just odd behavior. And The second thing that was odd or that was amusing was that you don't see any coitus, but post-coitus you see them in the bathtub. This ludicrously high-lipped, clawfoot bathtub, and they're both like excessively. They've both like had red makeup on, and lots of sweat put on them. Either that, or they've both just had sex for real. Rowdy's waited for them to finish, and then he's come in and gone, "Can we film the scene now, please?" And that's literally their post-coital glow. I don't know. But during their post-coital glow, it is intimated that Spader has become aroused again, and this is happening again, whether either party wants it to or not. And it pans away to the end of the bathtub to watch water sloshing over the bathtub to indicate movement within the bathtub. And I thought
how engorged Spader is displaced water.
I just thought that when it came to trying to indicate that coitus eruptus was happening, the sloshing of dirty Spade's bathwater was like there was an obscenity to it that I was kind of pleased.
No, I agree. You're right. I've never seen sleazy bathwater before. Or no, just sleazy water falling off a bath, and now I have.
Yeah. Harrington was like, "Do you think you can do something with the water to make it?" And Spader was like, "Out of my way. Oh, I'll make it work for you.
Just don't point the camera directly at me."
Yeah.
Or else none of us will get out alive.
I feel like the water sloshing over the edge was caused by Spader's balls hitting the water at a particular angle. I don't know why I feel like his. I don't know why I've gone with that, but I feel like that's probably
intuition,
it.
Mate. You watch enough Spader films and you get some intuition.
He does spend a lot of the movie shirtless, which I'm sure pleases a lot of the female fans.
So all right. So what? Here's the $1 million question here. What goes in the Sleazatorium?
Well, do we want to answer questions first, or do we want to answer that?
Can we do Sleazatorium at the end? I forget what the order is.
We normally do Sleazatorium right at the end.
Okay, cool. So let's answer questions then. Yeah.
All right. So the questions are, they're not Stickup specific, but we'll start off with your friend and mine. It's Andy Lunn. Andy Lunn, Andy Lunn, Andy Lunn. What a lot of fun. He's got a question. I don't know. I'm trying to. Andy Lunn's got questions. It's the Andy Lunn.
That's better because it's short.
I had something earlier when I was washing up. I had a jingle in my head, and now I've completely lost it. But there we go, Andy Lunn. So he has some questions here. He says, "I found the following statement on Spader's Wikipedia page and was in fits of laughter just from reading it. I dread to think where the conversation might lead if I ask you to discuss it on the show. However, here is the quote. On his way to becoming a full-time actor, Spader undertook jobs such as bartending, teaching yoga, driving a meat truck, loading railroad cars, and being a stable boy." The fact that Spader
those all sound like euphemisms.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For like a particular kind of gigolo.
Yeah. Well,
do you have any? You got any stable boys?
Yeah.
What was the one about the carriage? What was the
loading railroad cars?
Yeah. Have you got any railroad loaders?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, they're all euphemisms for gigolo.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Either that or euphemism for like certain sexual antics, like that he did while teaching yoga. So in other words, he's like, we're going to do a specific Spader yoga position today. It's called driving the meat truck. This is a yoga position that I've just thought up, and it's called driving the meat truck.
They're all Spader's personally invented yoga positions. Yeah. Driving the meat truck.
Loading the railroad car. Being a stable boy. And bartending.
No, cleaning the stables. That's what it would be.
Yeah, so I think it's that. I think it's a Spader yoga move, which is called
I like yours better.
Driving the meat truck. And to this day, you can learn how to drive the meat truck on spaderyoga.com, which is a wonderful resource, still going strong after all these years. Andy Lund then asks, when recording his performance as Ultron for Avengers Age of Ultron, I can't imagine that a regular studio would have been used. What particular environment and stimuli do you think he requested in order to fully relax into the role? I feel like we have discussed his portrayal of Ultron and his intense need to be oozing and dripping, especially at the beginning. Like I'm less interested in Ultron later on in the movie when he's all just a shiny killing monster. I'm way more interested in him as an oily, sloppy, covered in robotic afterbirth creature at the beginning, because I feel that's when Spader really owns it. In terms of
I get the question, because he doesn't need to be doing anything. They obviously haven't green screened like Spader's portly. Do you know what I mean?
Have you seen the behind the shots of Age of Ultron?
No.
He was literally in, and it's particularly obscene because he's at his post Boston Legal mid-season blacklist podgiest. They've got him in head to toe, including like a cowl, the like gray lycra, that like all body lycra that you have to wear. So his belly and his groin are like horribly accentuated. He looks like a greased up lumpy potato being wedged into.
Maybe that's why they used him, because he already had the suit.
Right. No, but then to make it almost more obscene, they've covered him in all the dots, where you have to cover them in dots, because he does all the movements, right? So there's got to be outtakes of the digital Ultron, like performing some just...
I don't think they did. They never turned the machine on. There's no way they're going to have like a robot be louche. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just like...
Dude, he performed all of the physicality of the robot. It's him. Like, I've seen like not just one shot but multiple shots, and they even had that like camera and microphone in his face that was attached to his cowl, so he's performing the role in the same way that Ruffalo does when Ruffalo becomes the Hulk. He wears the same kind of getup so that it's still Ruffalo.
Now I'm going to go back and see Age of Ultron, because I was not aware, because presumably going back now I'll come to realize exactly how louche of a robot.
Oh, he's very louche. But what I imagine that there has to have been an occasion on the set, probably multiple occasions, let's be fair, of him being on the set, keeping the outfit on, going to his trailer and performing one of the most obscene things that has ever been performed.
There's probably, like some people shoot some movies back to back, right? Because you've got like the same set, the same actors. There's probably like a movie that Spader shot where he's some kind of like sex monster, like an actual sex monster, using the green screen suit to film this whole other thing. It's just, it'll never be seen.
Yeah. I don't think he needed a particular environment, because I think Spader's, as we discussed last week, I think Spader creates his own ecosystem as he appears. I mean,
he carries it with him in a cloud.
Like Andy Lund's next question, I think, might answer it, which is, what 3 items does Spader always carry with him? And so if we're talking about like what environment and stimuli Spader needs in order to become a louche.
Well, one thing he always carries with him is his own cloud of sleaze.
Yeah, his own ecosystem, his own terrarium of filth.
His own sleazy ecosystem, yes.
His own terrarium of filth. And he it's too easy to say that he carries around a sex aid with him.
No. I'll tell you what he carries around with him.
No, he carries a book of like medieval and or early American sex aid artifacts, like a book that's like about the
he's not a reader. He's not a reader.
No, it's all pictures. It's a pictorial history of sex aids.
I think he travels around with a toothbrush. Think of all the things you could do
with a toothbrush.
You can scrub.
Yeah.
You can tickle.
Yeah.
Right. You can.
Is it an electric toothbrush?
No, it's just a normal toothbrush, mate. You don't want to limit yourself to electricity. That's the point. Anywhere in the world, Spader can tickle you, scrub you and put things in you.
Yeah.
Just with one toothbrush. That's all he needs. That's all he doesn't even need it. He's got his own ecosystem.
Yeah.
A toothbrush.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he needs anything else.
I think he needs to clearly take an obscene amount of felt trilbies wherever he goes.
Actually, he's got a roll of money because if he can't get what he wants, he just peels off these like greasy steam bills and lays them down. You know what I mean? Yeah, so a roll of money, a toothbrush, and a cloud of sleeves.
So we got more questions in the After Movie Diner group.
Okay.
Which were... Oh, no, actually on the After Movie Diner page. Michael Allen Fitzgerald, one of our top fans. Top fan, Michael Allen Fitzgerald. Always retweeting, always sharing. People could take a leaf out of the Fitzgerald's book.
Yes,
I'll tell you that much.
They fucking should. Do what freeloading bastards.
They should do what Fitz does. And
lazy, freeloading, say nothing, do nothing bastards.
Yeah, and that burp was brought to you courtesy of Jimothy Wallies. Anyway, he asked, Spader's last theatrical role, and this is excellent linking, was in the 2015 film Avengers: Age of Ultron. And while he currently stays busy as the lead and executive producer of TV series The Blacklist, do you think that he will someday return to the silver screen? Do you think that there is a third act in Spader's career where, as an old sleazy curmudgeon, he comes back to the silver screen and assays himself into a bunch of roles that win him Oscars and things?
I don't know.
Or do you think the world is not ready for like a septuagenarian Spader breathing down the neck
him
of like
sort of like if they cast him as James Bond, like they're always talking about who's going to be the next Bond. Spader. Make Spader the next James. I mean, he's already an incredibly sleazy character. Why don't just play it up?
What, an over-the-hill, fat, podgy...
An over-the-hill, fat, sleazy secret agent. Because I think he'd be great. That would be such a great movie.
I don't know that I want him as Bond, but I would have him like in an American equivalent.
No. He wouldn't change his accent or anything. We'd explain nothing. He would just be... The name's Bond. Ooh, you jester. Yeah, it would be fine. It'd be great. Yeah. Bond.
I would like to see him and Ralph Fiennes like trade witty bars.
Or he could play Q in the next, whoever the next Bond is. He gets to be Q, and everything in his like lab is like somehow like sexual. It could be sexual. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not overt, but you can't help feeling that everything in there could be used as some kind of a sex act.
And what's odd is when you first meet him as the new Q, he is sat on the face of, fully clothed, but sat on the face of Ben Whishaw, the old hipster Q, in a way that he has shown up and gone, get out of my way, Ben, and sat on him. Like, literally sat on him to take over.
I think, honestly, while I think it's fine that you have this fantasy, I think it probably needs to stay in your head, mate.
Okay. Robert Long asks, what the hell happened on Boston Legal to cause Spader's hair to fall out?
I would say the obvious answer would be working with William Shatner, right?
Well, not only working with William Shatner, but pacing him cream bun for cream bun at the craft service table.
Yeah.
Because when Spader leaves...
Because Shatner's bald too, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. He wears a tube. But even the way, like, especially when you see him in the office after Boston Legal, and he's grown his hair back out again, but he's like going bald at the front. He even went bald obscenely. Like the way Spader went bald was obscene, especially when he considered growing his hair back in the office. And he just has this like wispy, like frontal thing where it's clearly gone very thin, but he just doesn't care. And it's kind of, it's obscene. But no, it's definitely him and Shatner.
Cream bun for cream bun.
Cream bun for cream bun at the craft service table, where they both not only packed on the pounds, but kind of gained that kind of rubbery, bloated skin that only men of their nature can. But I know they became good friends on Boston Legal, and I can imagine why. The sheer sexual magnetism
No.
of Shatner and Spader, even in their old flabby selves. Like you
To be fair, they probably didn't even eat the cream buns. They probably just walked past the table, and the cream buns threw themselves into their mouth. Such was the sexually charged energy. You know, it was like cream bun attractor. Like they were like magnets for sweet, delicate pastries.
So Kim and I recently rewatched Boston Legal from start to finish, and while it certainly is hilarious to watch Spader and Shatner slither their way about courtrooms being utterly ludicrous and dropping their trousers at literally every possibility. It is, I mean, especially from the writer and director of like Ally McBeal, and now is it Big Little Lies that he does with Reese Witherspoon and whatever. You know, he's this writer who is, you know, considered, because he's written a lot of female characters, to be very feminist sort of thing. But when you watch it again, even as a joke, the sexual politics in Boston Legal is like, with modern eyes, just unbearable. I mean, for 5 seasons, if Spader or Shatner so much as sees a woman, they are licking them, groping them, kissing them, commenting on their cleavage, dropping their trousers in front of them, making comments about how they should be up against photocopiers. Like, it's relentless to the point where you're like, oh, all right, like, I get it, like this is fine, but like at a certain point you can apparently you can over egg the sleaze pudding.
Yeah, it's sort of like toxic masculinity, the show.
No, but it really is, but it's toxic masculinity played for laughs, which would be absolutely fine, except post Me Too era watching it, you're like, yeah, these guys actually...
I know they're sexual predators, but they get the job done.
Yeah, no, right, yeah. They've never lost a case while sexually molesting everybody. Brandon Young asks, Brandon Young is another name that I'm sure James Spader would love to say. Come in, Brandon Young. He says, having worked with them both, who would win in a fight, Andrew McCarthy or John Cusack?
Well, presumably that's a question for Spader, isn't it? That's one of the questions for Spader, and Spader's supposed to answer that question.
I'm putting all my money on Cusack.
Cusack and McCarthy?
Yeah, Cusack's a kickboxer. Andrew McCarthy is a waifish Nigel Havers type who does travelogue.
But what if it's a fight for Spader's heart?
Well, then Andrew McCarthy wins.
See, so there you go, Andrew McCarthy.
Because even for Spader, Cusack has now gone too weird. Like, even for Spader. All right, we've got a quick fire round now. Quick fire round, because enough of this nonsense. Craig Everett Earl asks, what film roles did Spader? Oh no, that's a question for Spader.
They're all questions for Spader.
What are some facts about Spader fans might not be aware of? Yeah, that's for Spader. Sorry, Craig, we're not speaking to Spader. I'm just speaking to Jim. Yeah, these are all for Spader. All for Spader. J.G. Michael wanted me to talk about the story Cronenberg told about why he hired Spader on the spot after Spader said, so I get to fuck all the chicks in this one, right? Apparently when they were talking about Crash. But we will leave that in case we ever do Crash. And Dave Lees asks, do you think he got to keep any of the costumes from Stargate for his own personal parties, in inverted commas?
Yeah, no, I mean, we'd have to watch Stargate, but for sure some of the outfits ended up in the Sleazatorium. No question.
Well, I have to say, although some people did get confused that I was talking to James Spader, and I would love to talk to James Spader, so I apologize.
There's no way you would actually want to talk to James Spader, for the simple reason that if he ever heard any of these podcasts,
he would love it.
He would sue you to within an inch of your beard.
He would love it. This podcast is essentially, there was an interview he did with Colbert that was all about like his weird sexual proclivities, and Spader happily admitted them. So he would love this. He would understand the humor, and he would love it.
I hope he does.
This is all done in love and praise. I mean, I wouldn't have watched 18 Spader films if I didn't like the guy. This is not meant to be
No, I agree. I
This
agree.
is not
I'm
meant
just
to be a
saying,
series of
there was that
ironic.
time when the producer of what was that Christian Slater movie? Stranded.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, that's so great that he heard the song that you wrote about Stranded and he really liked it. And then, oh, you should listen to the episode. And then we went back to the episode and I accused the producer of being like a coke-addled, what was it again? Like
Just
maniac?
coke-addled maniac.
Coke-addled maniac. So, yeah, we have to be a bit careful. I think I probably called things, I've called Spader things on the podcast that I would not say to his face.
Well, of course not. But look, this podcast is, and I want to make it clear, it is not an ironic, hip attempt to be above.
We're fascinated by Spader.
We're not above Spader, and we're not above the movies he makes, and we're not making a lot of art.
And the films I enjoy of his are the good ones, like the ones that I enjoy watching, not like the ones where he's sleaziest or whatever. It's like the ones that are the most fun, and his particular brand of.
In fact, if anything, when I've tried to sell you on,
moister than most. That's all.
When I've tried to sell you on a movie, because of sleaze aspects to it, you've ended up not liking the movie. White Palace and Bad Influence and movies like that.
Right.
Where I've tried to sell you
bloody awful.
Although I still can't get over the fact that Rob Lowe's plan in Bad Influence is to show a sex tape of Spader at a family gathering. Like, it's the worst.
It was
worst thing ever. So as we come to the end of this episode, fantastic episode, by the way, Jim. Thank you again for doing this. What is he putting in the Sleazatorium? In my mind, there are only two things he could potentially put in there.
Okay, I think we probably picked the same two things, but go on.
No, you go first. I went first last time.
All right, well, so it's a bit different, right? Because I don't think this actually goes in the Sleazatorium. Although it might be stored in the Sleazatorium, except for parties. But my theory is the bath is in the Sleazatorium. And what happens is he has sex in the bath, right, pretty regularly. And every time he does it the night before, every time he ever has a party, right? And everybody that shows up to the party, in the middle of the room, is the bath, and it's full of punch, right? But it hasn't been washed since Spader had sex in it. So everybody gets like Spader sex remnant punch without knowing, and it's all served out of that bath. That's my theory.
I would only agree with you if the punch was partly made with the bath water.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I'll go along with that, yeah.
Because I think that when he was doing whatever he did with his genitals to make the bath water slosh in a sleazy way, I think...
No, I know what it is. No, you're right.
As it sloshed over the bathtub...
They make the punch,
it
right?
Was caught in a punch bowl. Like
you arrive at the party, right? Yeah. And there's the bath, right? And the bath is full of punch.
Yeah.
And Spader is in the bath doing whatever he was doing off camera. And you have to stand by the bath of your glass. And when the punch slops over the side, into your glass. And that's how it's served.
Okay. It was either that or the clown mask, right?
The clown mask, yeah. But it's like he doesn't do anything sleazy with the clown mask.
It doesn't matter. It's so obscene, the clown mask.
No dressing gown?
No. He's already got a dressing gown in the Sleazatorium, I think.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he? I guess...
It's the bath water.
Does it do anything sleazy at all?
I quite like the bath punch. The bath... Like, I like the...
But it has to be used. Like, the purpose of the Sleazatorium is... I don't think
that Spader is in the bathtub making the water slosh at his parties.
No, you're right.
I think that he's paid a stable boy to do it.
Or a meat truck driver. Yeah.
Or a meat truck driver.
Yeah, you're right.
Maybe the stable boy is the thing, like the move, like we were saying it was a yoga move. Whatever the yoga move is that is the stable boy... That's what you have to do in the bathtub to cause the water to slosh over the edge in a...
And that's the name of the cocktail, is the stable boy.
Yes.
Yeah, all right. So the bath goes in the Sleazatorium, because you're right. There's nothing else in the movie that I can think of that he's even vaguely sleazy about. I mean, money covered in fake blood?
No.
I'm just thinking about things he could use in a sleazy way later. But
he definitely stole the Mary statue from the church. And fucked it.
He rubbed it. But yeah.
I don't
It
think
has to be the bar. I
don't
can't think of anything else.
I don't
really.
think Spader could stop at just a rub. Okay.
No, probably not.
But with that, I have to say, fantastic feedback from everybody. Please do keep it up. We love the feedback. We love feedback. And we love the questions. Thanks so much for the questions. Thanks so much for the feedback. Genuinely, 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 genuinely. Please keep doing it. Podcasting is more fun with interactive things.
That's true. It's true.
Because the people who ask the questions get to listen to the podcast, hear their shit read out, and then hear us waffle on about it. And we get to feel.
And we try and answer questions too.
We
in the
do.
spirit. We don't make fun of questions.
No,
right?
we love all the
We try and answer them within the spirit with which they were asked, and we try and come up with an entertaining answer. That's more than most fuckers do on podcasts.
Right. And not only that, but, we get to feel like we're not doing this in a void.
Right.
I think
In a sleazy void.
In a sleazy void.
In a slippery, the world's only slippery void.
Yeah. The Slippery Void, which is your next album. After whatever that other...
Yeah, containing such tracks as Driving the Meat Truck.
Yeah.
Driving the meat truck to your heart.
Drinking the Stable Boy.
Yeah.
What was the first album
Yeah,
title?
Drinking the Stable Boy. That's obscene now that you think about it, yeah. Drinking the Stable Boy and driving the meat truck. Yeah, definitely. That's the yoga position, isn't it? Is drinking the Stable Boy. That's the yoga position. I do like the yoga position thing.
You've just made it even more obscene. And on that note, on that filthy liquid fluid.
So, what are we doing next week? Have we decided?
It's entirely up to you, sir. But we can do. Let me just bring it up.
There was the one with Stoltz in it, right?
There's another Stoltzy one.
Yeah.
There's another Stoltzy one. There's Shadow of Fear. There's
What's the keen of that one?
There's the Stoltzy one, which is... I've got to find it. Hang on a second. What was the Stoltzy
Was that one
Keys to Tulsa. There was Keys to Tulsa.
Keys to Tulsa.
Or there's...
There's another one with
Slow Burn.
he's like a convict with Minnie Driver.
Slow Burn. That's the one I have on VHS.
Yeah, Slow Burn. Yeah, that's the one. Let's do Slow Burn next week.
Okay. Slow burn. It's what you get if James Spader gives you one of his many venereal diseases. A slow burn. All right. Okay. So next week it'll be 2000's Slow Burn, directed by Christian Ford, and starring Minnie Driver, James Spader, Stuart Wilson from Walking Dead. Josh Brolin is in it as a character called Duster. And Caprice Benedetti as Catalina McTeague.
Cool.
So Josh Brolin, wow. I mean, that's a comeback and a half. Brolin showing up in Avengers films, having been in shit like Slow Burn. Yeah, looking at like some of the other stuff that this director has done. Christian Ford has done. I do not hold out much hope, but he did the TV miniseries Merlin's Apprentice, which had Sam Neill in it, right?
Listen, mate. Anybody that casts Sam Neill anything is worth watching.
Did it have Sam Neill in it?
Probably.
Anyway, all right. All the best, man. Slow burn for next week. If it's not online. Let me know.
It's on the Roku because it's how I came to learn of it.
All right, and then for the last movie of the series, we can either do Keys to Tulsa or Crash. Up to you.
Yeah, if I can find Crash anywhere. Probably Keys to Tulsa, but let's keep our mind and our options open.
And our legs.
Yeah, I'll happily do a vote on the last one if you want to lay out.
Everyone will vote for Crash. Everyone will vote for Crash.
No. But what I'm saying is, votes for ones that I can actually watch.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I could lay out these are the ones I haven't seen that I can watch that haven't been covered on the diner. Whether it's 2 or 3 of them, and people can vote, and I'll happily watch it, whichever one they go for.
There's that obscure one where is it Spader plays a ghost and Michael Caine plays like a.
I've seen that. It's bonkers. Yeah.
I kind of want to watch that.
That's bonkers.
Because Michael Caine and James Spader, that has got to be the weirdest.
I wouldn't mind watching. It's a long time since I saw it. And it was one of those weird, afternoon, like I was having a day where I wasn't moving. I might even have been sick or something, and I watched it in the afternoon, and it was a very weird but kind of enjoyable movie. So I could maybe watch that one again.
Anyway, thanks ever so much, dude. We will be wrapping this up. And,
Sounds good, mate.
Yeah, look forward to hearing everyone's feedback on it next week.
All right, cool. Take care, man. Talk to you soon.
Bye now.
Bye, man.
Born a little sleaze in the sleazy end of town. In the early days, others tried to keep his sleaze down. But as he approached puberty, anyone could see that the sleaze had grown inside him each year exponentially. People would exclaim there was sleaze in all that he do, like hanging out by the main road making love to a shoe, or dangling his danglies into a plate of your stew, or hang running nude into a swimming pool filled with cold vindaloo. Cold vindaloo. Cold vindaloo. Cold vindaloo. In adulthood, the sleaze really reached its peak. There was ooze and dribble in every word that he'd speak, until the day it stood in the way of him staying with his one true love. And so he decided that moment to turn a leaf and took off his sleazy glove. And took off his sleazy glove. And took off his sleazy glove. Cause there was no redemption for Mr. Sleaze. He thought showing people he changed would be a breeze. But don't you know there is no redemption for Mr. Sleaze? He immediately stopped exposing himself in every church in the diocese. But there was still no redemption for Mr. Sleaze. He would go around helping all the neighborhood children eat their peas. But there was still no redemption for Mr. Sleaze. He developed a better tasting but less pungent version of cheese. But still there was no redemption for Mr. Sleaze. Oh no, he would warm everyone with a hairdryer every time there was a freeze. But still no redemption for Mr. Sleaze. He bought everyone in the town a round trip ticket to Belize. But there was still no redemption for poor Mr. Sleaze. So he gave away all his money to charities. But there was no redemption for Mr. Sleaze. He learned Spanish, Hebrew, Latvian, and a smattering of Chinese. But there was still no redemption for Mr. Sleaze. So he left that town and moved to a series of different cities. But there was still no redemption for Mr. Sleaze. His legend had travelled too far and had been stewed in varying degrees. And so there was no redemption for Mr. Sleaze. He went off to live in the mountains with just a handful of sad divorcees, and spent the rest of his life being who he was born, the inimitable Mr. Sleaze. They spent the
redemption. No redemption. For Mr. Sleazy.